The air in Atlanta hung thick that morning, a summer storm brewing beyond the WATL news studio. Inside, tension buzzed louder than the thunder rolling over Peachtree Street. Jack Hensley, 58, adjusted his tie, his broad frame filling the chair he'd owned for decades on Southern Pulse. A Georgia legend, his gravelly drawl had sparred with the best and won. Today, he faced Karoline Leavitt, young, poised, fiercely conservative. Her cool stare met his across the desk. The cameras blinked red. It was 8 a.m. showtime. "Welcome to Southern Pulse," Jack began, his southern charm masking a gritty edge. "Karoline Leavitt's here to tell us why the media's out to get her kind." So, Karoline, conservative outlets, they're the real truth tellers, huh? Or just dodging facts? Karoline leaned in, calm but firm. "Jack, I don't dodge. Your network spins stories to fit a narrative. Take the Atlanta protests last year. You called it chaos, ran it nonstop. We called it folks demanding answers. Who's dodging now?" Jack's grin tightened, the leather chair creaking under him. "We don't spin, we correct. You're telling me every anchor in this city's wrong? That's a bold claim for a guest." "Bold's what it takes," she shot back, her tone sharp but steady. "Your piece claimed voter fraud's a myth, 3 days after Georgia's election board flagged issues. That's not correcting, Jack. It's lying." A murmur rippled through the crew. Jack's chuckle rumbled, low and rough. "Lying's a big word, darling. You're young. Maybe you don't get how this game works down here." "Then explain it," Karoline said, her voice slicing through. "Because it sounds like you're mad someone's calling you out, and loud enough to hear." Lightning cracked outside, jagged shadows slashing the studio walls. Jack leaned closer, his voice dropping. "Calling us out? You're no martyr, Karoline. Just loud, and maybe out of your depth." "If loud cuts through your spin," she replied, unflinching, "I'll take it. Depth's not the issue here." In the control room, Mia Torres gripped her headset, sweat beading on her brow. "He's pushing it," she hissed to the tech. "Tell me we've got a break soon." "Not for 10, he muttered. Mia cursed softly. She'd known Jack 25 years, that glint in his eyes spelled trouble every time. Jack's grin faded, his next words heavy as the storm clouds over Atlanta. "You want truth, Karoline? Let's see how yours holds up when I'm done." Rain hit the windows, soft but relentless. The air thrummed with something electric. Whatever came next, it wouldn't be quiet. Rain lashed the studio windows, a steady drumbeat against the glass as Atlanta's storm unleashed its fury. Inside, the air grew tighter, the hum of the cameras a faint pulse beneath the rising voices. Jack Hensley's eyes narrowed, his earlier grin replaced by something harder, something meaner. Karoline Leavitt sat still, her hands folded, but her gaze burned with quiet defiance. The crew held their breath. This wasn't a debate anymore. It was a showdown. Jack leaned forward, his voice dropping low, each word deliberate. "You think you've got it all figured out, huh? Calling us liars. Dragging Georgia's name through the mud with your little crusade. You don't know this state or its people." Karoline tilted her head, her tone cool but cutting. "I know Georgia plenty, Jack. Born and raised. And I know when someone's twisting the truth to keep their throne. That's you right now, not me." A crack of thunder rattled the walls, loud enough to make the sound tech flinch. Jack's fingers gripped the desk, knuckles whitening. "Twisting the truth," he snapped, his drawl sharpening into a snarl. "People like you, with your whining, your victim act. You're the ones tearing this place apart. You want to talk thrones? You're building one on a pile of garbage." The studio went silent, save for the rain's relentless hiss. Karoline's eyes flashed, but she didn't blink. "People like me," she echoed, slow and steady. "Say it plain, Jack. What do you mean by that?" Jack froze, just for a heartbeat. The weight of her question hung there, heavy as the humidity choking the room. In the control booth, Mia Torres yanked her headset tighter, her voice a harsh whisper. "Jack, back off. You're crossing a line. Stop it now." But Jack didn't hear, or didn't care. He doubled down, his voice rising over the storm. "You heard me. Your crowd. Your people. All you do is cry about being silenced while you shout louder than anyone. It's exhausting, Karoline. George is sick of it. The word landed like a slap. Your people. The crew exchanged glances, a ripple of unease spreading fast. Karoline let it sit, her silence louder than any rebuttal. Then, softly, she asked, "My people, Jack. You want to clarify that for the folks at home? Because it sure sounds like you've got something specific in mind." Outside, lightning tore the sky open, bathing the set in a stark, fleeting glow. Jack's jaw clenched, his mind racing. He could feel the trap, knew he'd stumbled, but pride wouldn't let him retreat. "Don't play dumb," he growled, forcing a smirk. "I meant your conservative pack, your grievance club. What else would I mean?" "Careful, Jack," Karoline said, her voice ice-cold. "You're slipping. And those cameras? They don't miss a thing." Mia's hand slammed the console, her shout crackling through the tech's earpiece. "Give me a break now. He's sinking us." The tech fumbled, shaking his head. 8 minutes left, no cut. Somewhere in Atlanta's suburb, Tom Carver hunched over his phone, livestream flickering on his screen. His fingers flew across the keyboard, posting to X. Jack Hensley just stepped in it. Hashtag your people. He's done. The clip, 15 seconds of raw venom, hit the internet like gasoline on a fire. Jack straightened, his smirk fading as the rain pounded harder. "You want to twist this, Karoline? Go ahead. But we're not done yet." The storm roared. The studio pulsed. And the line Jack had crossed, it was about to cost him everything. Thunder boomed over Atlanta, shaking the WATL news studio as rain hammered the roof like 1,000 fists. Inside, the air crackled with something darker, something final. Jack Hensley's face twisted, his eyes locked on Karoline Leavitt, who sat unshaken, her calm ablaze against his fury. The cameras rolled on, merciless, capturing every breath, every mistake. The crew stood frozen, sensing the edge they teetered on. This wasn't just live TV anymore. This was a reckoning. Jack's voice cut through the storm, sharp and bitter. "Twist it all you want, Karoline. You're good at that, playing the saint while the rest of us drown in your noise. You think you're saving Georgia? You're choking it." Karoline's gaze didn't waver, her words slow and piercing. "Choking it, Jack? Funny. I'd say that's what happens when folks like you bury the truth under hot air. Keep going. You're proving my point." A vein pulsed in Jack's temple, his control slipping like sand through his fingers. He slammed a hand on the desk, the thud echoing over the rain. "Proving your point? You got no point, just a megaphone. People like you, your people. If you spent half as much time building something as you do whining about being canceled, maybe Georgia wouldn't be a damn laughingstock." The studio fell deathly still. The words hung there, raw and ugly, a grenade with the pin pulled. Karoline's lips parted, just slightly, her voice dropping to a chilling calm. "So that's it, huh? You think conservatives, my people, don't build anything? Don't contribute? Say it louder, Jack. Let Atlanta hear you." Lightning flared, flooding the set with white-hot light, and Jack's smirk vanished. He'd gone too far, felt it in the silence, in the way the crew wouldn't meet his eyes. But retreat wasn't in his blood. He leaned in, voice trembling with defiance. "You heard me. All you do is play the victim. Cry about free speech while you clog the airwaves with garbage. It's pathetic, pathetic." Karoline's tone turned steel cold, her eyes boring into him. "You're the one crumbling on live TV, Jack, and you're dragging your whole legacy down with you. Keep talking, I'm listening." In the control room, Mia Torres ripped off her headset, her scream piercing the chaos. "He's lost it. Cut the feed. Do something." The tech stammered, hands shaking. "We can't. 6 minutes. No break." Mia's fist hit the wall, her voice breaking. "He's torching us all." Outside, the storm raged, wind howling down Peachtree Street. But inside, Jack's words were the real hurricane. The crew's whispers grew frantic, phones buzzing with alerts as Tom Carver's clip exploded online. Hashtag Jack Hensley exposed trended in minutes, the hashtag a dagger in Jack's career. Across Atlanta, screens lit up with that fatal line. "If you spent half as much time building something." Jack's breath hitched, a flicker of doubt crossing his face. He opened his mouth, to retract, to fight, who knew? But Karoline cut him off, her voice soft yet devastating. "You done yet, Jack? Or you got more for the folks at home?" The rain roared louder, drowning out the silence that followed. Jack stared at her, chest heaving, realizing too late the hole he'd dug. The camera zoomed in. The internet watched, and Atlanta held its breath for the fall. The storm hadn't let up, its howl a relentless roar over Atlanta as night swallowed the city. Inside WATL News, the studio lights dimmed, but the real chaos glowed brighter. Screens flashing, phones buzzing, a tide of fury crashing online. Jack Hensley's chair sat empty, his mic cold, but his words still burned in the air, replayed in loops across Georgia and beyond. Karoline Leavitt had left the set, her silence louder than any victory shout. Upstairs in a glass-walled boardroom, the reckoning was just beginning. Mia Torres paced, her heels clicking against the tile, her voice tight with panic. "We're bleeding sponsors, Dan. Coca-Cola's out. Delta's on the fence. Jack's little tantrums costing us millions." She spun to face the station manager, Dan Reese, his face pale behind a stack of papers. "Fix this, or we're all done." Dan rubbed his temples, his drawl shaky. "Mia, we can't just... Look, Jack's been our guy for 25 years. We suspend him, ride it out. Ride it out." Mia's laugh was sharp, bitter. "You seen X lately? Hashtag Jack Hensley exposed is trending. Top spot. Tom Carver's got half of Atlanta screaming for his head outside our damn doors." Through the window, faint chants rose above the rain. "Jack don't speak for us." Downstairs, Tom Carver stood soaked in the parking lot, megaphone trembling in his hands, his voice hoarse but fierce. "I watched Jack for years, trusted him. But that? Calling folks like us, Georgians, pathetic? He's got to go." A dozen others nodded, signs dripping ink in the downpour. No more lies. Back in the boardroom, Dan slumped, defeated. "What's the damage? How many sponsors?" "5 pulled already." Mia snapped, tossing her phone on the table. "More recoming. We don't cut Jack loose. WATL's toast by morning." She paused, softer now. "He did this to himself, Dan. You saw it, heard it." Across town, Sarah Brooks sat in her Buckhead condo, wine glass shaking in her hand as she dialed Jack. "Pick up, you idiot," she muttered, rain streaking her window. Voicemail clicked on. She groaned, then called a local podcast instead. "Hey, it's Sarah." "Yeah, Jack's old producer. I'll go live. Someone's got to defend him." Her voice hit the airwaves an hour later, crackling with frustration. "Jack's brash, sure, but he's not wrong. Conservatives play victim too damn much. He just said what we're all thinking." The host winced. "Sarah, you're not helping. Too late." Her words ricocheted online, fuel on the fire. Tom tweeted the clip. "Even his friends can't save him now." By midnight, hashtag Sarah Sinks Jack joined the storm. Karoline stayed quiet, her only move a single X post. That 15-second clip of Jack's rant, captioned with a thinking emoji. It racked up 1 million views in hours. Atlanta's streets buzzed. Diners, bars, homes, everyone picking sides as the rain pounded on. Dan stared at Mia, his voice a whisper. "We fire him, it's over for him, for us. We suspend him instead?" Mia shook her head, eyes hard. "Suspension's weak. They want blood, Dan, his or ours." "Your call." Lightning lit the room, thunder crashing as Dan signed the paper. "Draft it. Jack's out by dawn." The city didn't sleep that night. The storm raged on, and so did the fallout. Jack's empire crumbling, brick by wet, angry brick. But the end? It wasn't here yet. Not even close. Dawn seeped into Atlanta. The storm's rage hushed, leaving wet streets and a fractured city. At 6 a.m., WATL News dropped the bomb. Jack Hensley is no longer with us. The words sliced deep. Justice or betrayal? Tom Carver stood in the drizzle outside, voice cracking with triumph. "We took him down. No more trashing Georgians like us." A small crowd roared, their signs bleeding ink, truth over lies. Sarah Brooks watched from her Buckhead condo, heart pounding as she dialed Jack. "They caved to the mob, Jack. You fighting this?" His voice came low, edged with steel. They think I'm finished, Sarah. Watch me prove him wrong. That night, Jack's YouTube hit, a raw, unfiltered plea. WATL fired me for truth. They want silence, not honesty. This ain't just my fight, it's yours. If I go down, who's next? Views skyrocketed, splitting Atlanta's core. Karoline Leavitt stayed silent, her shadow looming large. On a rival show, she struck coolly. Jack picked his words. People picked his fate. It's that simple. Mia stared at the empty studio, telling Dan he torched us, left us no way out. Dan's reply was grim. He's back now and louder. This ain't over. The city pulsed, coffee shops, X-threads, voices clashing. Hero or relic? Fair fall or foul play? Rain puddles mirrored the tension, Atlanta torn. Jack's defiance grew, a new storm brewing. What's your side? Tell us below. Subscribe for more.